National Electoral Council of Venezuela announces an extension of the registration process for the parliamentary elections of December. No entering or leaving to stop the COVID-19. Morocco announces new lockdown measures in its cities to fight the novel coronavirus. Florida becomes the second worst hit state by the COVID-19 pandemic in the U.S. as the country struggles with more than 4 million positive cases of the infection. Hello, today is Monday, July 27, from the headquarters of Tell Us Your English in Havana, Cuba. This is From the South. I'm Ernesto Dominguez. Venezuela continues to prepare for the parliamentary elections to be held on December the 6th. The National Electoral Council announced on Sunday it had completed an update to the electoral registration. The head of the Electoral Board, Indira Alfonso, said the schedule for these elections has so far been completed without any issues. Alfonso announced a 22-hour extension of the registration process. Alfonso also said that at least 107 political organizations will participate in the elections, which will be held under strict biosecurity protocols to prevent COVID-19 infections.
Today we have decided, and so we want to inform you, to extend for 72 more hours, that is until Wednesday, July 22 at 12 p.m., this special day. So we invite you to maintain that constant motivation, that constant participation, because here is this National Electoral Council ready to meet the demands.
Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro has denounced this Sunday the continued persecution of the United States government over the purchase of drugs, medicines by the Bolivarian country to assist patients infected by the novel coronavirus.
We are under a criminal persecution by the U.S. empire, which is blocking us every time we try to buy medicine to fight COVID-19. I want to denounce this to all international institutions. We need these medicines, and we keep trying to acquire them in the international market. Thankfully, we have always had friends around the globe who give us access to all types of medicine and help us treat COVID-19 patients.
President Maduro also informed of over 500 new COVID-19 cases recorded in the country in the last 24 hours.
The new cases are 534, of which 478 are cases of community transmission. It is a decrease in relation to Saturday's figure. 199 of these new cases correspond only to Caracas. Be attentive residents of Caracas. Of the new cases, 64 were imported at the border who are Venezuelan who had entered legally and were made PCR tests.
On Saturday, food delivery couriers across Brazil went on strike to demand better working conditions. The workers demand the creation of a new minimum rate in deliveries and a fair salary calculator per kilometer. They also asked that couriers stop being dismissed for no clear reasons and to be provided the adequate protective equipment to continue working during the pandemic. For their part, companies like Uber Eats, Rappi, and Logi have yet to address the workers' demands. Social movements have also supported the strike and made calls on locals to stop using the food delivery application as a sign of protest. And from this issue, our correspondent in Sao Paulo, Brian Muir, gave us more details on it.
Labor activists around the world for a while now have been saying that although the strike is weakening as a protest tool in many sectors of the economy, in the logistics area it still offers a lot of opportunities to pressure capitalists to increase and improve labor rights. Yesterday in Brazil there was a nationwide strike held by delivery motorcycle workers for iFoods and Uber Eats. This is the second strike that they've held since the pandemic began in Brazil. And workers' demands include being paid per kilometer for their delivery rides and also protection against the COVID-19 virus and measures to take care of them if they get sick. Yesterday in cities across Brazil, they blocked the entrance to shopping malls, which have been carelessly and recklessly reopened by many state governors. They blocked traffic on some of the major streets in the biggest cities in the country. And they continued demanding for dialogue with the app companies. According to Alessandro de Conceição, who is president of the Autonomous Motorcycle Delivery Workers of Brasilia, all of the app companies continue to refuse any kind of dialogue. As the pandemic worsens in Brazil, as the death toll climbs from around 1,000 a day to over 1,200 a day, Workers' rights in these most oppressed sectors of the economy become more and more important, especially in terms of relationship to the risks they're putting themselves at with the COVID-19 virus. So the strategy now of the motorcycle drivers is to keep the pressure up, to keep paralyzing deliveries at this moment of opportunity. As the bourgeois remains cloistered in their homes, while the working class puts itself at great risk of death and illness in this horrible pandemic.
Guatemala's Pacaya volcano has put the country on alert due to its increased activity. The volcano has shown progressive increase in activity over recent days, in particular the gassing and prolonged incandescence in the McKinney crater. There were also lava flows and weak to moderate explosions. Nearby villages will set temporary camps, and authorities have begun asking residents to evacuate as a safety measure. In Mexico, family members of the 43 disappeared normalists of Ayotzinapa demanded justice and punishment from those responsible for the case. 5 years and 10 months later, family members of the disappeared requested President Andrés Manuel López Obrador to continue the investigations in the case to clarify the facts. Senators for the Labor Party demanded the authorities of the General Attorney's Office an investigation against ex-procurator Jesus Murillo Caram for the so-called historical truth of the events.
Because of the previous government, we are still here, 5 years and 10 months away, without knowing anything about our children, without being able to do the investigations because they were the ones who disappeared those children, who murdered 3 Ayotzinapa teachers. Of the 43, we don't know where they are.
And we'll be right back after this break, so don't go away.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on FtS.
Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atomy. Monday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back to From the South. Morocco will stop people entering and leaving some of the biggest cities as an effort to contain a surge in COVID-19 cases, the Interior and Health Ministry said on Sunday. The cities to be locked down include the economic powerhouse of Casablanca, as well as Tangier, Marrakech, Fez, and Meknes. The country eased a nationwide lockdown a month ago, though international flights are still suspended, except special flights by national airlines carrying Moroccans or foreign residents. On Sunday, the Health Ministry said 633 new COVID-19 cases were recorded, one of the biggest daily rises so far, bringing the total number of confirmed infections to 20,278, with 313 deaths and 16,438 recoveries. Police in South Africa's Western Cape province used tear gas and stun grenades to disperse hundreds of people who took to the streets to protest against the demolition of their homes. The angry residents blocked roads with burning tires and rocks before heavy armed police officers moved in to repress the protest. The Cape Town City Council's decision to demolish houses in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic and the country's winter season has been widely condemned. But the council insists that the houses were built illegally and described the protesters as criminals trying to disregard the legal procedures for acquiring land. Iran has reported more than 200 new deaths from the novel coronavirus as authorities call on citizens to follow health protocols more closely in order to ease the burden on exhausted medical staff. Meanwhile, the country's total number of cases have almost reached 300,000, with the overall death total standing at nearly 16,000.
Our biggest concerns are the infection and fatigue of medical staff. We can help them and prevent the spread of the disease by observing basic health guidelines, such as washing hands, wearing a mask, and maintaining social distancing. 12 out of Iran's 31 provinces were classified as red, the highest category in the country's virus risk scaling, and 13 were on alert or close to red.
Thousands of Israelis protested in Jerusalem and other cities, demanding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's resignation over his government's handling of the pandemic. In Jerusalem, protesters held out signs accusing Netanyahu of corruption, a reference to his recent indictment for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in 3 cases. Protesters also slammed a law passed this week that gives the government special powers to fight the pandemic until the end of 2021. Protesters are also frustrated with the economic crisis triggered by the pandemic, with unemployment rates jumping from 3.4% in February to 27% in April, before falling slightly in May to 23.5%.
I am an Israeli patriot who has fulfilled all his duties. I'm afraid that my grandchildren will not have a state with hope, future and vision. I have a fear that the Israeli Prime Minister will leave us with a scorched earth. We have one country, and we are committed to defending it. I am willing to die for democracy. I am not willing to live in a dictatorship.
We came here to demonstrate against the helplessness of our government in dealing with COVID-19. We came here because there are over 1 million people unemployed in Israel, and it seems to us that the Prime Minister doesn't care about anything except his trials and his survival. We came because we want change. We are tired of a government that doesn't care about its citizens.
Workers in Saudi Arabia have fully disinfected the city of Mecca as the first 1,000 pilgrims began to arrive for an unusually limited Hajj celebration. Saudi Arabia has said because of the coronavirus, only very limited numbers of people will be allowed to perform the annual pilgrimage, which traditionally draws more than 2 million Muslims from around the world. But for the first time ever this year, the Hajj will not include pilgrims from outside the country. Instead, 70% of pilgrims will be selected from among foreign residents of Saudi Arabia, and 30% will be Saudi citizens. And we have more stories coming up after this financial break, so stay with us for more.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on Telesur.
A review of the world news that investigates, incites analysis, and induces criticism, because every event has a context.
Pusimos el punto en la I.
Dot in the eye. Saturdays, only on Telesur.
Telesur English presents a weekly program to discuss the political, economic, and social issues affecting the Caribbean community. We'll challenge stereotypes and unpack the diversity of the region through the analysis of unique cultures, religions, and art. We Caribbean. Wednesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back to From the South. In the United States, the state of Florida became on Sunday the second worst hit state by the COVID-19 pandemic as the country continues to see the struggle of the rise of novel coronavirus cases. In the last 24 hours, there were 9,300 new COVID-19 cases reported only in Florida, amounting to 423,855 cases of infections. Thus, the state surpasses the rates reported in New York, which is now the third worst hit state after California and Florida. The surge of COVID-19 new cases in the state has continued as the state's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis continues to downplay the implementation of COVID-19 preventative measures, such as the use of face masks. Also in the United States, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported on Sunday 4,163,892 cases of the coronavirus, an increase of 64,582 cases from its previous daily count. Meanwhile, the government battles the public health threat under different approaches to contain the spread of COVID-19 pandemic and reactive economic activities. Hurricane Hannah degraded to a tropical depression as it decreased its intensity after it passed along the Gulf Coast of South Texas in the United States. The first Atlantic hurricane of 2020 slammed into the U.S. state of Texas, bringing heavy rain, storm surges, and potentially life-threatening flash floods. The National Hurricane Center warned that the rains and strong winds continue to be a threat to the population after generating floods in some sectors of the state and affecting the electrical wiring due to the high winds went up to 144 kilometers per hour. According to the National Hurricane Center, it is estimated up to 45 centimeters of rain in parts of South Texas and northeast Mexico. Women across Turkey have gathered in support of an international treaty that seeks to combat violence against women. This comes as fears have grown over the government's possible withdrawal from the agreement. The demonstrations are also part of rising anger in Turkey at the growing number of femicides, including the murder of a university student earlier this month. Deputy Chairman for the ruling party, Numan Kurtulmus, described signing the international treaty as wrong and suggested Turkey would withdraw.
The Istanbul Convention protects us. It's our right in case of divorce. But not only that. For example, if we are in a relationship with a state official, let's say someone in the army who has a weapon, thanks to the Istanbul Convention, that weapon can be taken away if we are threatened.
If this convention is taken away from us, all women will be alone. They will have to fend for themselves in their private circle. The state will have dismissed the responsibility that falls on them. We reject that. While the convention is still misapplied, we already have so many dead.
The construction of the world's highest altitude power grid project has been completed in China's Tibet Autonomous Region. With a total length of nearly 1,700 kilometers, the project goes from Shigatse City to Ngari Prefecture, stretching across permafrost, vast plateaus, and swamps at an elevation ranging between 4,000 and 5,300 meters. The region of roughly 380,000 residents has been suffering from power shortages, especially with the tourism and stock breeding industries expanding rapidly in the area. And we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Ernesto Dominguez. Thank you for watching.